So you doing the whole like Disney thing? Or
We just did one day at Universal.
Maybe.
The back?
Yeah, back is fine.
So I've got bottled water for everybody.
Okay.
And this is the famous Espiritu Santo Springs bottled water from the resort and spa.
Oh,
So the springs actually run underneath the hotel where it is
I
today.
wondered where they were at.
Yep. And they actually bottle their own water. So it goes through like a double filtration process for the FDA guidelines so they can bottle it and sell it. But yeah, it's pretty good. I always tell people they're going to look that 10 weeks on there. You have to drink in it.
Guzzle it down.
Drink up. You have to sip it. Alright, we'll see how my microphone works today with the wind. Alright, testing. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright.
You warming up? Yeah, I'm fine. You can pull
I was gonna say she was asking if we're
I was
warm.
going to say this is probably warm for you.
Yeah, I'm good.
What's the weather like in Colorado right now?
I mean, it fluctuates. I think it's actually in the 40s there as well,
okay.
but it's been colder.
Yeah. Snow on the ground or not?
There was snow when I was leaving
Okay.
a few days ago, so I assume it's still snowy there.
Do you like the snow then?
No.
Snow sports, no? Yeah, me neither. That's why I live in Florida now.
Yeah.
I got away from that.
Yeah, I'm trying to plot to move somewhere else.
Okay. Alright, so Safety Harbor, as you heard in the video, was incorporated in 1917. And at that time, there was only a population of about 700 people here. Now today, Safety Harbor has a population of about 18,000, so it's definitely grown over the decades. And Safety Harbor is only 5 square miles, so it's a rather small town. But to our left is the beautiful Tampa Bay, which offers some picturesque sunrises in the morning. If you get a chance, if you haven't, go down in the mornings and watch the sunrise over the water. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I always say that there's no sunrise that is the same. So every day it seems a little bit different depending on what the weather temperature is like. The colors and the shades are always beautiful in the sky down there. And when the weather is warmer, you can actually see manatees swimming around the pier down there, which is beautiful too. Now we're going to pause here because this tree here is our first historic landmark. This is called Lover's Oak. And Safety Harbor is home to 3 historic live oak trees. This particular one is over 200 years old, and it's called Lover's Oak because back as early as the 1890s, which was the Victorian era, the young girls would sit here. There was a branch that came out that formed the seat, and they would sit on the branch, and their boyfriends would court them here. And they would carve their initials in the bark of the tree. And as it went through the early 1900s, young couples would come here, they would have picnics, they would gather here. It was like a little social spot. So obviously the residents here affectionately called it Lover's Oak. So this is one of 3 trees that we're going to highlight here as part of the historic oak of Safety Harbor. Now I mentioned that it's a live oak tree, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, but what that means is a live oak tree means that it doesn't lose its leaves and it stays green throughout the winter months. So you'll see the trees here in Safety Harbor, they maintain their leaves throughout the winter time. And you only find live oak trees obviously in warmer temperatures. So you'll find them as far north as Southern Virginia, like around Richmond. And then you obviously find them all the way down south to Florida. And you also find some out in California as well. Alright, so we're coming up here on City Park, up here on our left. This is the largest park that we have in downtown Safety Harbor. And you saw some of the parks highlighted in the video. And we're fortunate to actually have 12 parks around Safety Harbor, which is really phenomenal. This is the biggest one. There's several ball fields here. There's also a dog park, and then there's a skate park as well. And then up here at the end, there's a driveway that goes into a boat launch into Alligator Lake, which actually sits behind the park here. And here at the right is our community center that houses a really nice fitness center, which is really affordable. So again, there's always something going on for Safety Harbor, I say, whether it's downtown or any of the community events. And this driveway actually heads back. The skate park is there, and then there's the dog park down there as well. Alright, so we're going to turn right here onto 10th Avenue South, and we're making our way now back towards the west end of Main Street where the businesses start. And before we get there, I wanted to just pause, pull over here and point out on the left-hand side the Crooked Thumb Brewery. And I'm not sure, are you all into drinking beer or you know, to look namesake from Pinellas County, which is said to sit off the west coast of Florida like a crooked thumb. They make what they say is laid-back ales for representing the charm of Safety Harbor. But they have a tasting room inside, so that garage door with the glass comes up, and they usually have that up on a warmer day. They have a tasting room inside, and then they have a big beer garden to the left of that. And on the weekends, there's usually a food truck and live entertainment here.
Oh.
So this place gets packed. So they're actually not open yet. I don't think they open until 12 o'clock.
Okay.
But yeah, this place is packed on the weekend.
That's good to know.
It's tough to find a parking spot actually, as is everywhere usually in downtown. But here so more than not. There's only so many places you can go, so many side streets. My mission was to highlight some of the unique businesses that we've had here in downtown, which I think adds to the quaint and the charm of Safety Harbor. And the first business is going to be our food stop, which is at the Nona Slice House. And Nona gets their name from Jamie Colleton is the owner, and his two children are named Naomi and Noah. So that's how we got the name Nona. A lot of people think it's my grandmother. I've had a couple people on the tour that thought that all along that's what it referred to, but it's actually a combination of his two children's names. He's been making pizza for over 25 years, and he has won many awards in Italy, abroad, and also here in the U.S. He does the fancy twirling with the dough, and all the acrobatics are involved with it, but he also makes a great pizza pie. So they have 3 varieties here. They do a New York style, an Old World style, and then a Detroit style deep dish pizza as well. But they also do happy hour specials every day of the week, and they usually have live music here every day as well. So I'm actually going to pull over here, and I'll head in and get the pizza. While you're sipping on your water, I'm going to each give you a plate and napkin. So you have that when the pizza comes out. You want to take that and hand it back.
Yeah.
So I'll be right back. I'll go get the pizza.
All right.
You think I'm vegetarian.
Okay. I don't want to blow away.
And I'm going to point out, up here on the right is the BFW building, but across from that, on the other side of the tracks, is actually where the original Main Street station was, the railroad. Alright, so right here is the American Legion building, and then right across the tracks, there's no building there now where the cars are parked. That's actually where the original station was. And up here on the left, I want to point out there's a black awning and it says bakery on it. And that's the famous Joey Biscotti bakery. And you have a swag bag coming to you at the end of the tour with a goodie from them in it. But Joey Biscotti is great. They've been around for about 8 years here in Safety Harbor. But they do individual size cookies, cakes, brownies, and biscotti. And they make some really fascinating stuff. They're always creative and doing really good things in there. So check them out if you haven't before. I want to point out Gigawatters on the left here. They actually are a 1920s Prohibition era restaurant, and they're also a movie theater in the rear of the restaurant. Have you all checked them out yet or seen a movie there or anything?
Yeah,
We just go in there and have lunch one day. We haven't done a movie yet.
Okay, well there's, in your swag bag, you're going to get free movie passes, so take advantage of that.
Okay.
I'll take your trash for you.
Thank you.
Yep. But just a little quick history about Gigawatters. So their namesake actually comes from the Prohibition era. So back in the 1920s, you know, when the Prohibition era started, they, at that time, if you wanted a alcoholic beverage, you would ask for a Gigawatter. So it's kind of like the code word during Prohibition to still get alcoholic beverages at the club. So that's kind of where their namesake comes from. And they do, are you still, okay. No, if you had trash. Yeah. So that's where their namesake comes from, and the Gigawatters was actually started by a couple. Their name is Rachel and Richie Wilson, and they're originally from New York, and they moved down here. They have family that live here, and they started that restaurant about 4 years ago, and it's doing really well. It an interesting concept, but they do the gourmet burgers, the gourmet hot dogs, and then gourmet mac and cheese in their restaurant. But definitely check it out, because the movie theater, you can watch a movie and then you can order from their full menu, which is really neat.
Oh, okay.
Now, I pulled over here because I want to point out a couple things. So, Post Office Square. So, we actually used to have a post office down on 3rd Avenue and Main Street. But then in 2018, our post office decided that their lease was up and the space down here was no longer conducive for their operations. So they actually moved our post office out to McMullen Road, which meant that the local Safety Harborans didn't have a walking post office anymore downtown. So again, another local couple by the name of Stacy and John Roth decided to open Post Office Square. And I always tell people, if you haven't checked them out yet, please do. They are actually a post office and so much more. First of all, you go in and you get great service, very friendly and efficient service. You're usually not having to wait in line, but always smiling faces in there. And they do printing and business needs, and then they also have greeting cards in there. They also sell the Harbor Life apparel, which is like sweatshirts and shirts and things like that you'll see local people wearing, but just really great business.
Okay.
And then Troubled Waters Brewing here on the corner, they're the second brewery that we have in downtown Safety Harbor. Crooked Thumb is the first, and then this is the second one. And a little tidbit about them, Kevin and Stephen Shanks, it's a father-son team. They started making beer kind of like as a hobby, and then they decided to do it, as a business. But their great aunt actually sold the Chamber of Commerce their property, where that building is today here in Safety Harbor. So they have some ties here, some strong roots in the area as well. So really neat stories how everything kind of ties together with local families.
Yeah, and I didn't know that post office was still there.
Yes. Yep.
And I see a FedEx there too.
Yeah, they do FedEx as well.
Yeah, because that one on Mullen Booth is terrible to go to.
Oh, I know. That's why I say go in here.
Yeah, because I didn't know it was there. I drove over to Oakmar the other day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, head in there, Post Office Square. I want to point out here the mobile station on the corner. So a lot of people think you can't get good food at the gas station, but this is the exception. So there's actually a little sandwich shop inside there, and the gas station is run by a veteran, Mayor is his name, and then Irvin. So those two guys are in there, and they run the sandwich shop, and they run the place, and they're really friendly. They're great people, but their sandwiches are world famous here in Safety Harbor. They use the boar's head meat, and then they use this really big Cuban thick bread. So the sandwiches are really good. So check them out. Yep. All right, this is our next historic landmark that I want to point out. So this is today called Dog Cottages. It's an Airbnb, but it has historical relevance. Historically it's known as Spate Cottage. The reason it's known as Spate Cottage is because there was a couple here by the name of Charles and Edith Spate who lived here in the 1920s. And they actually moved here from Iowa, and Charles had a hardware store out in Tampa. And then when the Great Depression hit in 1929, he unfortunately lost the hardware store. So him and Edith had to move here to Little Safety Harbor and kind of downsize, I guess. At that time, this was much smaller, but there was a little cottage here, and this is where they lived. And unfortunately, Charles, soon after the Great Depression started, he passed away. So Edith was left by herself, and in order to survive, she sold a lot of her possessions, and then she also rented rooms in the cottage to visitors in order to kind of make ends meet. But this is a historical home in itself. It's known as a vernacular coastal, southern coastal house. So what that means, vernacular, is that it wasn't built by formally schooled architects. It was built by local builders, and they used whatever available resources that they had to make the house. You also notice it has a big wide front porch, and it sits so close to the street as we're practically in their front yard here. But that's because back then people didn't have Netflix, so they actually wanted to socialize with their neighbors. Imagine that. So it was entertaining for them, to sit on the porch in the evening and talk with the neighbors as they passed by. That was their form of entertainment, because they obviously didn't have TV and other things that we have today. But this place today, as I mentioned, it still welcomes visitors. They rent out, there's 3 cottages today that they rent out, and it's dog friendly, so that's why it's called Dog Cottages. But this place actually just sold, I know the couple that used to own it, and they sold it last summer because the real estate market was so hot, so they put it on the market, thought, well, let's see what we can get. So they got a good number. It sold for, I think, 2.5 million.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, but they have 3 cottages here. So yeah, this is a cute place. So if you have friends or family that are in town and need an Airbnb, this is a place to look for.
Okay.
But they're listing the new owners that took it over. You find them on Vacasa, VACASA.com is where they list this as an Airbnb.
Okay.
So I told them, I said I never would have found it because I would have looked on VRBO or Airbnb.
Right, so the casa?
The Casa, yep.
Okay.
That's where they've listed it.
Yeah, we should have guessed it. We're originally from Iowa, so.
Oh, are you? Okay. Yeah, it's really cute, and then it wraps around here. You see the little places. Now we're headed around this little island here on the left, so take some sneak peeks in between the woods, but we're going to come around and see it on the other side as well. But this structure here is actually the oldest structure in Pinellas County, and it's the oldest standing log cabin in Pinellas County in its original location. So there's other older buildings in the county, but they have been moved, so like they are not still standing where they were originally constructed. So Safety Harbor kind of has that little feather in its cap, that little statistic for us to have the oldest structure. But this was actually built in 1870 with bricks that date back to the year 1865. So it's over 150 years old. Now the original structure is the one on the right. There was another structure added here to the property in 1992. So here on the right is the original log cabin, and this place is impenetrable. And I say that because it has the original heart pine was used in the logs, and then the columns there on the front porch are made out of sable palm trees. So sable palm are also called cabbage palm trees, and you're probably familiar with the state tree of South Carolina and also Florida. That's the state tree of both of those states. But it's called a palm tree, or I'm sorry, a cabbage palm tree, because it has edible palm hearts that taste like cabbage. But the poles, or the tree trunks, essentially, are what was used to make the poles for the porch. And over time, they've hardened like concrete. So it's pretty durable. It's kind of like Fort Knox. But there was a woman that purchased it in 1992, and she renovated it and refurbished it to bring it back to its original state. And then, as I mentioned, she added on that second residence on the left there. Right. So it's kind of like a little property here with a little mother-in-law suite or something. I'm not sure how they use it today. It's a private residence, and they don't open it. Yeah, I think it's one family. But somebody said that they knew who used to own it, and I guess they used the historical part kind of just for guests, I think, to visit. But they live in the main quarters there on the left. Okay. But this house actually just sold this past summer as well. You know, real estate was so hot here in Safety Harbor, and it sold for about $1.5 million. So
wow.
It's a beautiful property, though.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
And you can see a little bit as we head up here. There's another driveway. You can get some sneak peeks of it up here as well. Yeah, they have a little screened-in porch there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tucked in here. I always say it kind of has its own little zip code.
Yeah,
it's on this island, so you can go around and around, and it's just there.
Yeah, we never know this stuff here.
No, people really don't realize it's here unless you go looking for it. Alright, so we're going to head up to our next food stop, which is the Bassano Cheesecake Cafe. And the Bassanos, Cindy and Tom, again, are local residents here in the area. And they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and that couldn't be more true for how Bassanos got started. They're originally from New York, and when they moved here, they couldn't find a good New York cheesecake to be delivered to their house. So what they did is they made their own, essentially. They found recipes from Tom's Aunt Clara, and they used those recipes to start making cheesecake. And they started shipping the cheesecakes, whole cheesecakes, across the nation. And then in 2020, right when the pandemic started, they leased this building here and started doing it by the slice in their little cafe, where they offer coffees and hot chocolate and tea as well. But they haven't looked back since. They've been doing really well. And we're actually going to stop here and head inside and get a taste. But they also are always having events going on here. They have live music on most weekends, and there always seems to be something going on here. During Third Friday, they usually have musical events here as well, musical acts. outside here, but I'm going to say let's go.
Yeah.
Yep, we just have 3. Yep.
Hi guys. Hi
Hello,
there.
how are you?
Welcome.
So you guys want to sit over there by the fire and get warm?
Yeah.
Right out. All right, we have full and warm bellies now, right?
Yes, we do.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
There we go. I think the cold weather got to it. Being stubborn. Yeah, so if you ever get your nails done, polished is over here. They do pedicures and manicures and stuff.
Okay.
That's where I go. It's a cute
Okay.
place. Really nice people.
Okay.
I should try it myself.
Yeah, get your toes in.
Here's the Dazzle Boutique. That's where the Safety Harbor Herald was back in the early 1920s.
Okay.
Yep, Happy Salmon. Check that place out. They have really good sushi. Yep, it's good. Don't forget to try the sandwiches there at the Mobil Station. Don't let the gas station bottom point. They make a good sandwich. Clean and friendly, like it's really a nice place. Have you guys seen Shamsi down here? The Safety Harbor Art and Music Center? Yeah. It's always an eye catcher with the pink elephant out front and all the colors. This is a cute place too, Daydreamers. They do a breakfast, brunch, and a lunch there. They're only open on Wednesday through Sundays.
Okay.
But that's a cute place to check out as well. That's Dave and Christine. So they actually own the Airbnbs down here that I just mentioned you about. They're the original Airbnb people in Safety Harbor. So these are their places right here. So there's the Italy, the Key West is right next to it. And then down on the end here, the yellow one is the Safety Harbor House. But their card is in your swag bag. But yeah, they're great people. And yeah, their Airbnbs are clean and a lot of attention to detail. Like when my family stayed there, they had like a bottle of wine there for the first night, and they gave them empty growlers that they could take up to Crooked Thumb to fill up their growlers with beer.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and they have beach toys there. So like my nephews came, they're younger, so they took beach toys to the beach, and like chairs, stuff like that. They have all that stuff there at the Airbnb, which is a little niceties, you know,
Yeah.
that you don't have to think about. All right, so we're gonna head up this way, and I always point out the brick streets on these side roads because, you know, whenever I see brick streets, I always think of like a quaint and charming little town. And the streets here in Safety Harbor were platted originally in 1905, but these bricks are, unfortunately, they're not that old. They're not historic, even though they're a little bit bumpy and uneven. But these were laid in 2005, so they're not quite vintage yet. But that's okay. They're still charming. And back here is a little hidden gem here on the right-hand side, this little yellow building. It's called Bailey's Naturals.
Oh.
And Julie Brennan is the owner. She's been here for about 20 years, but she has this little, it's a little apothecary. So she does teas and spices and all kinds of natural remedies. And she's just a wealth of information. So if you're into any of that type, hey Julie! Thank you! But there's also information in your swag bag about Bailey's Naturals as well. But check her out. She's a really great person too. kitchen is great. Their food is all made from scratch. You want to make a reservation though if you go on like a Friday through a Sunday because they get crowded. But really good food, good people, locally owned.
Okay.
Really good. This place right here is called Parts of Paris. It's a French restaurant. So if you like
that's
French
what that
food.
is. Okay.
Yep. But they do happy hour specials, I understand. So if you want to check them out, go at happy hour and check out one of their specials.
Okay.
And then I'm going to pull over here just so we're not going to get out, but I'm just going to talk about these historic landmarks here. So we've got them right across the street. So let's start on our right-hand side. So this is Tupelo and 4th. So this is a little boutique again. So for you ladies, really good clothing and accessories and all kinds of jewelry and stuff, really cute stuff. So this is owned by Melissa Haste. She again is a local Safety Harbor resident, and she's owned this for about 20 years. Really cute boutique. But this structure here is historic. It was built right around the time that the streets were laid, which was around 1905. And you can see it's got that front porch again, just like that cottages did as well. But you see the little siding, the fish scale siding it's called on top. That was a Victorian era type of decorative element that they used during that time, so back in the early 1900s. But again, it's got the porch and really cute place. So again, this is historic. And the thing with Melissa, she also is really into mosaic. So she offers mosaic classes. She actually, behind the boutique, she has a studio.
Oh, really?
So if you ever want to take classes, go onto her website and she offers that there.
Okay.
So yeah, really, really fun stuff.
Is she the one, because I saw online, I haven't seen it recently, Mosaics and Margaritas at Sea Dog Cantina.
Oh, I don't know if that's her or not. It may be.
Okay.
But I know she offers them here at her studio
fun.
too. Yep.
Yeah.
She's a really neat person. Really
I'll have
fun.
to sign up for one of those.
Yep. Check her out. And also, if you go in there to shop, just tell her about Tours in the Harbor, and she'll give you a 10% discount.
Okay.
So she doesn't have anything in the swag bag, but she says just tell people.
Okay.
And then this place here is one of my favorite places in downtown. It's called the Gingerbread House, and it's called that because it's got this little decorative element up top there, again, which was common in the Victorian era. This house was built around 1908, but it looks like a gingerbread house. You know, It's got the cute little facade on the front. But the thing with this house is that so it was built in 1908. It was built by a man named William Belcher. So if you're driving around, you may have driven on Belcher Road.
Oh, yeah.
So that's named after him. He was actually the first mayor of Largo. So Largo is about 10 minutes south of here. But this house was unique because it apparently back in that time, around 1910, it had a well drilled, and the well was the deepest well in town, which meant that the water was the best water in town. So it didn't have a lot of sulfur in it. So it didn't leave odors and stains on clothing. So what happened then is that the women would come here with their dirty clothes and their scrub boards, and they would have a big cast iron kettle full of water that they would use to wash their clothing because they would get it from the well out of this house. So the ladies, as you can probably picture, they were seated here, I'm sure, socializing and gossiping and talking about the news of the town, and that's what they did their laundry. But this house also had a lot of firsts in town, so it was actually the first house to be wired for electricity in the 20s. In the 30s, it was the first one to get indoor plumbing. And then at that time, they installed a clawfoot bathtub in the house. And apparently about 10 years later, it fell through the floor. So they couldn't get it out. So they just left it there and I guess kind of boarded over it and made the floor over top of it and just left it there. And then when people bought it then later on in the 2000s, they actually resurrected this clawfoot bathtub, and they actually now have it in the rear of the house. It's like a centerpiece, I guess, and a conversation point in the back patio. But this is an Airbnb as well, and you can rent this through vacasa.com. The same people that own this just bought this, the same ones that just bought the Dog Cottages, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, this place sold for over $1 million last year as well.
Wow.
But this place is cute. There's actually the Gingerbread House is the front property, and then there's another property to the rear of it they call the Ginger Snap. So there's actually two places that you can rent through the vacasa.com.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of history here, really cute stuff.
Yeah.
And then you got the brick streets as well, which adds the charm. And then over to the right, I just wanted to point out the gazebo. This is John Wilson Park.
Okay.
There are a lot of events. The market takes place here on Sundays. Do you come down to the market on Sunday at all? They have a lot of vendors now.
Not yet. I have walked through the Friday
Oh, third Friday?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's crazy.
Yeah, it gets full. Hi.
Oh, what a cute little pie.
Yeah, on Sundays they do a farmer's market, and it gets pretty crowded down here as well on Sundays. I think it's from 10 to 2 on Sundays, and it's gotten bigger. So before COVID it was pretty small, and then after COVID it's just grown.
Okay.
So you said you like cocktails. Sips Wine Bar is another one to check out. They have over 30 different wines in there that you can try. They have the machines, so you can do it by the sip, the gulp, or the glass. So you have a lot of options there. Sandwich on Main is a cute sandwich shop. And then the Tides Seafood Market is the brand new market that just opened a few months ago. And the Chamber of Commerce building is one right here on the corner.
Okay.
If you've never been in there, you should check that out. They have stuff in there, just information and everything about area businesses, things to do. So it's a good resource. Very friendly people in there too. So this is the second of the 3 historic live oaks. This is called the Baranov oak. This is the most famous one.
Okay.
And this one is over 500 years old, and it's named after Dr. Baranov, Salem Baranov, who was originally from Russia. And he purchased the Safety Harbor Resort and Spa, which at the time was called the Sanatorium. And the sanatorium actually was used to treat people with long-term illnesses like tuberculosis. But when he bought it, he turned it into more of like a health and wellness type spa, where people came and got massages and took in the healing waters and ate healthy, and it was more like a vacation kind of wellness visit. But the tree, actually, I say, is probably one of the luckiest trees in town because it was saved from developers about 3 years ago. The city actually bought it for $1 million.
The tree?
And they turned it into a park. So we're really fortunate to still have it.
Right.
So it has like it has supports on it. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, because it's the weight of it is just so massive. So we have a town arborist, so he keeps track of all these trees to make sure they stay healthy and what needs to be done.
Wow.
Now this is the third of the 3 trees. This is called the elf oak tree, and pull over here. Make sure this guy doesn't pull out in front of us. So if you want to get out, we can actually want to show you why it's called the elf oak tree. You got to see it from the other side. Has a gap between the earth and the tree.
Oh yeah.
And what caused that is there's actually this tree was growing on one of the burial, the ceremonial shell mound for the fathers. So when they laid the streets in the early 1800s, they needed sediment to base the roads. So they dug up all these mounds, and that's what created this gap between the earth and the tree. But the tree obviously survived, and it, it adapted to its environment, and it's still a mighty oak tree.
Right.
It's about 200 years old. It's about the same years that Lumber's oak tree that we saw first off.
Wow.
But they call it an elf oak tree because back in that time when they saw this gap here, German mythology, they say that elves live under trees, like the Keebler elves, the cracker company.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it the elf oak tree. Because the mythology at that time, they thought the elves might live underneath this tree. So it's cute. But there's other.
Yeah, that looks old too.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know the stories. There's no stories behind any of the trees here, other than they have some age to them as well.
Right.
But I think a lot of why we have all these old trees that are survived is because of the minerals in water. Right? It keeps them so healthy. That's why they say the tocobagas lived here for this region, is because of the minerals.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, this is the back side of the library.
Okay.
You guys been here before?
I have not been to the library.
Okay. For such a small town to have a big library, they're actually adding on. They're adding on the second story.
Oh.
So they're going to build on top. But they've been doing a fundraising campaign for the past 2 years to raise this year, I think they're maybe going to start building.
Okay.
But like I was saying, they offer the tool library. They have a lot of programs there, a lot of free resources. So it's just more than books, you know, which is nice. But yeah, these are all little things, show that, like I said, you know, when you move to a town, if you don't explore them right off, you kind of just get complacent. You just take it for granted. You don't even realize that you have this stuff in your backyard.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're so fortunate to have all these things in this little town. There's another historic house, a cute one right here. It's called the Bungalow House. So it's right here on the corner. And this was built in 1919. And I see the cat out front. So I actually know the lady that lives here. Her name's Rhonda. But that's her cat. And she calls it Cat. So that's her little kitty. But yeah, she lives here. And this was built in 1919 by a man named John Whitehurst. And he was one of the original clans in Pinellas County that developed this area, kind of like the McMullins and the Booths, who were, they were from the Odette Philippi family, so those lines of clans.
Yeah.
You're probably familiar, obviously, with McMullen Booth Road, so
Right.
it's named after those two big families that settled this area. But this is a bungalow style, which was very popular in the 1920s, right before the Great Depression. So bungalow style has like the square columns and the front porch there, and like the low eaves there at the top where the roof is.
Okay.
But you'll see some people were trying to stay with that tradition when they're building houses, even though, you know, they're turning over the old house and building new. I actually had a couple weeks ago on the tour, and they're building a house, and she wants to try to maintain some of that charm, so she's building a bungalow style house.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, good for you. That's great, you know,
Yeah.
try to maintain some of that history. But yeah, there's a couple, if you drive around some of these side streets, you'll see some of these houses, they're a bungalow style. They're bigger, but they kind of maintain some of that character of the bungalow house, which is cute. Alright, so we're heading back out. This is Blvd Parkway, which turns into Bayshore Boulevard as we head out further. But we're going to swing back behind the resort because I'm going to show you the Tucker Mansion back there. So yeah, this lot right here on your right,
Okay.
that's what they want to cut down and develop. Because it belongs to the resort spa. So, and I'm not sure what they're going to do about parking after they develop that. See how the parking is when they have events here?
Yeah.
This is where all the overflow parking is, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with the events. If they're going to build a garage or what they're going to do. Yeah, but you can see they're already starting to dig some stuff up there, it looks like, so it's coming. Yeah, but this is the back side of the resort, and then if you head down that way, that's the Waterfront Parkway. It's just walking, but it's like a little walkway that goes right along the bayfront out to the pier. Yep. And then if you ever walk down this road here, this is a little offshoot of Bayshore Drive. This actually leads all the way, it's dead end at the end, but it leads to the back side of Blvd Park. There's a walking bridge that will take you into Blvd Park down there. Okay. So this is the Tucker Mansion, and this was built in 1923 by Virginia Tucker. And Virginia, her maiden name was Bailey, Virginia Bailey, and she was the daughter of Colonel William Bailey, and they had a plantation up in Tallahassee, and that's what she modeled this home after as she built it. But her father was a land speculator and a banker, and he was very wealthy. And she ended up becoming the wealthiest woman in Safety Harbor then in the 1920s. And she married a man named James Tucker. And so she built this house, and then she also built a hotel, which is called the St. James Hotel, which we're going to go by it there. It's on the corner there, right across from Barfly on Main Street. So she built that hotel about 2 years after she built this house. She was a busy lady. And they called her the Grand Dame of Safety Harbor. So she was, I think, a force to be reckoned with, because at that time, if you were a businesswoman, you know, it was pretty uncommon.
Right.
So she definitely had some sass and some independence to her. But this house, she built it for only $20,000 at the time, and it had 10 bedrooms. Each one had its own bathroom, which was unheard of at that time. You know, you let alone have an indoor plumbing, but yet let alone to have your own bathroom for each room. But it was a residence, and today it's actually, unfortunately, it's not open to the public. It's owned by a private business, and from what I understand, it's offices for a solar company that own it and operate it here. So they don't open it to the public, unfortunately. But everybody through here, they say, oh, they should have it as somebody should do like a weddings or Airbnb or something here. That'd be really nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, at least have the first floor open.
Right. Yeah, but this was, they called it the palatial mansion when it was being built, and it was the pride of the town at the time in the 20s. And from what I understand, at some point in history, the resort owned that house. They must have sold it somewhere along the way because they used it as well. So I was talking to the folks at the resort, and they said that at some point in time, the resort owned the property.
Is it one family that owns the resort?
So it's owned by a development. I guess it's like a family that owns it. Olympia Development is like the owners on paper that own it. It's part of Wyndham Properties, but I think it's a Greek family that owns it. But you'll notice they did some renovations. Some of the architecture and stuff kind of reminds you of Greece.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it comes from. They celebrated their 95th anniversary last year, and they really took off in 1945 when Dr. Baranov bought it, and he changed it from a sanatorium to a resort type feel, more modern day, where you come and take in the healing waters and had a healthy diet. And there's actually 5 springs, and they're named after what body part they essentially help. So there's the liver, the kidney, the stomach, the pure drinking water, which is the filtered water that they bottle, and then there's the beauty water, which is good for the skin. But they use the mineral springs in everything in the resort. So in all the spa treatments, in the restaurants. They have a restaurant, the Fountain Grill here on the end, it's open to the public. They also have a tiki bar and a lounge inside, it's open to the public as well.
We went to the lounge one night. There was some Caribbean music.
Oh, okay.
Sat listening to that.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice atmosphere in there.
Yeah.
Yep. Now here on the corner is Rocky Delicious. They have the gourmet coffers there. There's a discount card in your swag bag. You get it at the end. But this building here on the right is the St. James Hotel. So that's one that Virginia Tucker built. She actually built it in 1925 for about $130,000. At that time, it was the only hotel that had a working elevator, which was pretty uncommon in the 1920s. So, and then this is the back side of the Baranov oak tree and the Baranov park that they made around the tree. And then here's the Chamber of Commerce, and you probably remember this mural from the video. So this is Odette Philippi on the corner here, mural. And then we have the Tocobaga Indians, DeSoto, who discovered the mineral springs here, and then the Pancho de Narvaez, who was another explorer here as well. And this is the Safety Harbor Galleria. It's a cute little place here that's tucked in. A lot of people just visit, you know, while there's development going on. That has historical relevance. It was built in 1930, and the story goes that there was a man that built the house, and he was a limo driver at that time. I would guess probably for the first world stuff. He must have done limo service for them. But he and his family lived in the rear of that house. And it's pretty small, actually. You go in there, it's a little boutique. It's a small building. Alright, and this takes us to the back entrance, just back to the museum. So we're back home.
This was great, actually.
Excellent.
Oh, great, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Yep. Now you know all the highways and byways of Safety Harbor. That's another thing, you know? Get all those little tidbits. Alright. Well, let me get your goodie bags for you.
Okay.
Be on your way. There y'all go.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so much. It was so nice meeting you Nice
All right.
meeting you.
Thanks
Goodie.
for braving the weather.
Yeah, no, we're used to it.
Last day here, so we have to do it.
Yeah. Well, safe travels back to Colorado. Thank you.
All right.
Remember you though.
No, that's okay. Yeah, totally fine. I
We'll be
got it.
back in the 80s right next to you.
Yeah, exactly. We can endure this a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye. You too.